Welcome to Library Out Loud with your host, Jane Baker. Jane has 7 years working at the Spokane County Library District as a communication and development director. Library Out Loud is about any and all things that are happening at the Library District. Library Out Loud is brought to you in part by STCU and SCLD. Now, here's your host, Jane Baker.
Hello and welcome to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker with the Spokane County Library District, and I have two wonderful guests with me today, two of our public services managers, and just making sure I get the titles correctly. Gwendolyn Haley and Stacey Goddard joining me today. Thank you, ladies, for joining me.
It's our pleasure having us.
And before we get going, I want to say we have a new setup here in the studio, and
so nice.
This is pretty awesome.
It's very fancy.
Nice job, guys. It looks great and very comfortable. So it'd be great for our conversation today, in which we're talking about learning circles. What is a learning circle? Well, I don't even know where to start. Maybe just start there. What is a learning circle? I'm going to start with you, Gwendolyn.
We'll start with me? Sure.
Yeah.
Well, a learning circle is basically a group of people who come together to learn something together over a period of like 4 to 6 to 8 weeks.
Okay.
And we use an online curriculum. So there's so many free online classes available. And so it's a combination of kind of online learning, but you're able to do it in person with a group of people. And you commit to learning together, and you meet weekly for, an hour and a half to 2 hours a week. And it kind of provides extra support and community for people other than just sitting at home by yourself in front of a computer screen. And so kind of levels up the learning experience.
That's pretty cool. I know that online learning is very popular. A lot of people like that better than attending a class because you can kind of do it at your own schedule. But it's sometimes nice to be able to talk to somebody in person, bounce ideas off of, and explore ideas. So that's the combination that makes it a learning circle.
Yeah.
Where'd this idea come from?
Well, I'm gonna look at Stacey because
all right, let's look at Stacey.
It was all my
She started
fault.
it.
I know. Well, I actually attended a meeting last year. I guess it is last year now. We are in 2020 of librarians in Washington State, and they had a speaker who was one of the founders of this institution that we're partnered with, Peer-to-Peer University, and they were talking about what they're doing, and it's a worldwide effort. They've got a number of sites around the United States, but also in Africa and Europe and pretty much anywhere that you can think of.
Very cool.
And they were really interested in partnering with a library or two in the Pacific Northwest. So, and it just seemed to really fit nicely together with our strategic plan goals, our community engagement plan goals, where we heard over and over that people want a better sense of community. They want to gather with their neighbors and get to know people a little better. And they're also looking for free classes and ways to enrich themselves. So I talked to Gwendolyn. I said, is this something? This seems like it could be something.
Yes, it does.
And we got some more information, decided that yes, we really, and, talked with leadership, obviously. We didn't just decide on our own, but it just seemed like a really good fit. And so we were fortunate enough to partner with Peer-to-Peer University. And as Gwendolyn said, it's the classes are all free, which also fits really nicely because everything we offer is free.
Everything we do is free,
and it's definitely a way to get that sense of community. And when Gwendolyn was talking about sitting at home on the computer, I have the best of intentions. I have started a couple of Gale courses and not finished a single one because I get distracted by other things in my house, and I'm like, I don't want to sit here and do this all alone. This is not the best, the way that I learn best. And there's a lot of people like that out there.
I'm one of them. I'm guilty of that myself.
Well, and I think the statistics are that more people start than finish these online courses. And one of the things that we've talked about with other librarians in the state too is the idea that online learning is great because it's anyone, anytime, anywhere. But what that sometimes means is anytime, anywhere can mean never and nowhere because we have good intentions, but they're without that accountability. And for a lot of people, just sitting and reading and learning by themselves is not meeting all of their needs for learning. And so the learning circles are a really low low cost, and because they're free, but also just I think in terms of your personal cost of just the investment, it's the threshold is low to try a learning circle. You're not paying for the class. No one is an expert, so it's less intimidating, I think, than a traditional classroom environment where if you are uncertain about, you're not familiar with the topic and you're uncertain about how am I going to do in a classroom, well, you're not being graded, and you're with a group of people who are committed to being collaborative and cooperative and supportive, and so I think it can make the kind of emotional cost, that threshold can be low too. So if you've not been successful in another learning environment, I think you could be very successful and feel really confident and after a learning circle, and I think that's really great.
And one thing that I appreciate about learning circles that's a bit different from the traditional classroom model is there's not a teacher. There's a facilitator.
Okay.
But the facilitator is not talking to, it's not, you're going to listen to me drone on for 90 minutes to 2 hours about something. It's, we're going to talk collaboratively and everybody is going to contribute, and you're not having a spotlight shined on you and being forced to contribute, but the facilitator is there to make sure that everybody has a voice and everybody gets a chance to contribute. And we recently completed, Gwendolyn led a learning circle on facilitating learning circles for
Imagine that.
Wheels within wheels.
Yes, for our staff. And I was in that group, and I was really appreciative of the opportunity, because it really reinforced for me that we all come at learning in different ways. And my style of learning is perhaps very different from Gwendolyn's and different from a number of the staff that were in the training. And everybody brings something to the table. And every session, someone brought up a point, and I was sitting there thinking, I didn't think about it, but that's a great idea. Or I wouldn't have approached it that way, but I'm so glad that I got to hear that person's view.
Different perspectives that way. So earlier you mentioned the Gale Courses, and I've done that too. And the Gale Courses are an online resource that are available through the library, and a huge variety of different topics. And I started with great intentions. I'm going to take this class, and I remember the one that I had started recently was a writing class, and it'd been great to have somebody I could bounce my ideas off, or review this. Does this really sound good, or is this terrible? What do you think? So that's great. So is that how it works? Is it through a Gale course, or what kind of course?
It could be any kind of course.
So it's an online course that's already set up.
Right.
Okay.
So we, in addition to what we offer through Gale Courses, we also have like the language programs, Pronunciator, but also, MIT has open courses. You can take, Introduction to Chinese. You can take programming in Python and things like that. Stanford has free classes. Talking with other librarians who are working with peer-to-peer university, one of the most popular classes they've taught is the Science of Happiness, which I think was either Berkeley or Stanford course. And so we've been looking at what kinds of classes we might offer next. We just did one in the fall around Introduction to Fiction Writing, which I facilitated. One of our staff will be facilitating a financial plan budgeting.
Right. Personal finance.
Oh, that's great.
Learning circle. And then we're looking at what topics we might do next. But it could be things about, how do I take personal action on climate change? We've talked about, there's a lot of people who are interested in changing their eating habits and maybe embracing a healthier lifestyle or a plant-based lifestyle. But that can be a challenge if you don't know where to start. And there's lots of courses out there. And the other thing that was really great, I thought about, if you're pressure prompted, like I can be,
same,
which is a fancy way of saying a bit of a procrastinator, but I like pressure prompted, that sometimes having the accountability of I meet every Wednesday night with a group of people who are doing the same course helps me to finish my assignments and do the reading, because I want to come and be able to participate and share. And my classmates, the other people in the learning circle, are relying on me to do my part because it's collaborative. So, and I think that helps people be successful. And finish.
Yes, exactly. So it's a great combination of being able to learn on my own, but still having the accountability of other people, and you learn so much from other people. Like you were saying, people come up with ideas that you didn't think of.
Right.
And of course, you have ideas that they don't think of, so you learn
Right.
from each other. What a great idea! So I'm going to step back to
Sure.
the Gale courses again, because you were mentioning MIT and Stanford. So it's not the online courses that we offer necessarily.
Right. It could
Okay.
be it could be anything as long as it's free online
And
courseware.
Can I just jump in?
Yes,
you know,
please
I
do.
interrupt you all the time.
I love it when you do.
So I know a peer-to-peer university has a really strong belief or expectation that when we create learning circles, the content is going to be content that's freely available.
Okay.
And just as an example, one of the learning circles we tried around the time Gwendolyn's writing workshop started was one on 3D printing. And we were looking at using lynda.com for some of the content. But when we created the class with peer-to-peer, we actually used Tinkercad as the source material.
Sure.
We were thinking we would augment it with lynda.com, but peer-to-peer's point is that they want other learning circle participants to be able to be successful with that same content. And if we are offering a resource that we pay for, which lynda.com is one of our digital resources that we do pay a subscription for, somebody in Botswana might not have access to
They
that.
don't have access, yeah.
So we certainly are looking at ways that we can augment some of these learning circles with the content that tax dollars are paying for, that we're paying for out of our budget. So
Yeah.
it's really nice to have that mix, but also really great to know that there are sources out there for content when maybe, you know, for example, Gale Courses might not have something right now on budgeting. And so Danielle, our librarian who's going to do this personal finance workshop, found some great free resources, free content online, and is going to be using that to as part of her curriculum.
Very interesting. And I just want to back up a minute, and you mentioned Tinkercad, and that is the software that we use
With
for
3D printing.
3D printing. So
Right.
if people want to send in a print job to the
Right.
3D printer, it goes through Tinkercad.
Right.
Some of these names
Oh,
are
thank you. I
Yeah.
know. I
These are
dropped a
great.
little jargon bomb there. I
Yeah, it
apologize.
is. It's so there's so much.
There is, there is, yeah. This is great, and we've already gotten started. I know you started at the Writers' Conference last fall.
Yeah.
Great success, and that was, I believe, one of the things that propelled us into continuing
Right.
the learning circles. So now we have more going on
Yeah.
and more coming up.
Yes, and
Yes.
a chance for people to vote online.
To vote on what they want to learn. And you know what? We're going to talk about that, but we have to take a quick break.
Okay.
And we'll be right
Cliffhanger.
back on Library Out Loud. Join us then.
What? You haven't been to the library lately? Stop in today and see that the library is more than books. Spokane County Library District facilities feature on-site technology, including Wi-Fi, computers, and printers, as well as free use of meeting rooms. The Library District offers events and programs for all ages, from story times to career development and employer classes to Social Security workshops. Our staff is well trained and happy to help. Find out more about your library at scld.org.
I'm Jade Becker, and I'm a senior at Chewelah High School. I'm at STCU's Money Live event. In this scenario that we played today, I was a realtor. My spouse was a city worker. We had an 11-month-old child, and there was a lot of spending for that child, like diapers and formula, and had to buy toys and clothing. I'm very glad that I had this experience. It was super helpful. You need this to get far and ahead in life. I'm Jade Becker, and STCU is here for good.
Welcome back to Library Out Loud. I'm Jane Baker, and with me is Gwendolyn Haley and Stacey Goddard, and we're with the Spokane County Library District. Today, our topic is learning circles, and it's a combination between online learning and learning in person. Courses at no charge,
Right.
and they're through the library, and we're working on that now. 6 to 8 weeks a
Yeah.
course lasts.
In
Okay,
general, yeah.
so say I don't know you guys, and I want to join a learning circle. I think this sounds like a great idea. What do I do?
Okay. Do you want to answer that, or shall I?
Well, it's funny because we were just talking about this. We only had one learning circle on the horizon right now, and I just heard yesterday that it's full. So
Wow.
the way that we would normally
Wow.
direct people to go to a learning circle might be a little bit of a frustrating experience.
Okay. Well,
because we don't have anything active. But on our calendar, you can look up learning circles, and I know you've got the website right there. Is it P2PU dot
P2
Number 2.
PU.org.
/ and then I think ours is
SCLD.
like SCLD.
Oh, there
So
you go.
that's okay. So because that platform lets us then communicate directly with the students, send them reminders and updates and things like
Gotcha.
that. So
Okay.
there's always a link on our calendar, and in our current issue of Engage, it talks about the dates that the classes are coming up. So you can look at the calendar.
So we have the Engage magazine, and I see
Yes.
I managed to manipulate my view here.
Just a reminder.
And of course, there's always a new one coming out. We have them
Right.
3 times a year. But
Right.
yeah, on page 8 of this particular issue, there's a discussion about learning circles, and that website is there, p2pu.org.
Slash
SCLD
Yeah.
for Spokane County Library District.
That's right.
So
Okay.
normally that would be the place to go to see what upcoming and currently available learning circles are happening. We actually need to talk with someone from Peer-to-Peer University. You caught us because their platform is not very user-friendly when all the classes are full.
Gotcha.
There's not an option that says, hey, check back with the staff and ask about more upcoming classes. So we're going to be working on that.
That was an unexpected
Yes.
eventuality. We found out like, oh, they're filling up. People want to do this. So that was exciting.
That's
'cause
great.
We
So
thought,
it's the personal finance one that's filled up
Yes.
right now?
Yeah.
Yep.
And I know that we've been working on some polls and
Yes.
saying, what do you want to learn? What do we
Exactly.
want to offer? Because that is part of our community engagement program
Right.
to provide what our constituents or our residents in our area want.
Yeah. Right.
So there's polls going on.
That's right.
Are they? They're still going on,
They're
right?
still going on through
Okay.
the end of the month.
Okay.
So which is exciting, and people have we have found in our years of working in Spokane County libraries is that people have wide-ranging and varied interests.
Sure.
So sometimes it's things people are interested. Like we just did the fiction writing class last fall, which we kind of knew because of our writing conference that
Yeah.
there was a lot of interest.
Yeah.
But then the personal finance one,
gosh,
we were
yes.
like, oh, that filled up super fast.
Sure.
That was amazing. And then we know that people in our community are interested in social issues, like, what can I do myself personally to impact climate change
Yeah, that
in
was
a
a great
positive
one.
way.
Or get involved at the grassroots level with local government, help, get on on a board or a commission. How do you go
Sure.
about that?
Right, but
Sure.
also people are interested in learning languages, or they're interested in studying the great courses. I mean, I could see, in the future where we might be have classes about, writing. I think will continue to be a popular topic, but also people learning a language, or people learning about a social issue, or people learning something highly technical, or taking, like a Shakespeare survey because they enjoyed, reading and reading Shakespeare in college or in high school, and they'd like to come back and do it again. And the whole point is we don't have to stop learning just because our formal education is over.
Yes.
You can
Yes.
finish and tick off that checkbox diploma,
Yes.
what have you. But libraries are the place where you can continue to learn and grow in whatever area interests you. So I'm kind of excited to see what people
We
in our
can't tell.
community.
You're very
I
excited.
know. You never can. But it was neat, and I was amazed. The writing conference, the writing workshop we did. I'm not a writer, and so it was a great example of the facilitator does not have to be an expert,
Right.
and people were so engaged and committed, and we all, including me, we all felt a little bit sad when our 8 weeks together ended,
Wow.
because we had really bonded as a group.
Sure.
and watched each other kind of grow and develop as writers. And I did the homework too. I promised. I felt it was only fair.
Yes.
And it was extremely vulnerable to read out loud something I'd written.
Oh,
I didn't
yes,
like it.
yes.
But they were so supportive, and they said, "Well, can we keep meeting together?" And I said, "Absolutely. Just because I'm not there doesn't mean that you can't continue your learning journey together." And I think that was really exciting to see.
If I could, I wanted to mention, because you talked about homework twice, and
Yeah.
one thing we haven't talked about with learning circles is that they tend to follow what is called a flipped classroom model.
Okay.
So if people are thinking, ugh, school, I'm done with school, I don't want to do that.
Right.
Learning circles are really set up that you may have outside work, you may have reading to do, or writing in the case of one of the writing learning circles. But the idea is that we're not spending the time together reading the same article or the same chapter in a textbook or whatever. We may watch a video clip or something together and then discuss it, but it's really going to be time spent collaboratively working on either writing samples and then critiquing each other's
Right.
work, or helping your fellow learning circle people navigate Tinkercad so that they can figure out how to use that software to get the 3D printer to produce what they want to produce.
Sure,
So
sure.
Yeah, and it's entirely up to the group. And so every learning circle is going to look a little different depending on the technical savvy and comfort with using computers. People may choose to do all of their work outside of class and watch all of the lectures or whatever and come together and talk. But if they're not comfortable using the technology, they may choose to do it all together. And so everyone is going to have a different flavor because you're really deciding as a group how much time do we want to spend outside of our hour and a half to 2 hours a week
how
together.
do we want this to
Right,
look?
and
Yeah.
it really depends on the group. So if you've got people who are like, this is just fun for me, and I just kind of want to do the minimum,
Yeah.
then, and if that's everyone in the group, then that's great. That's what you'll do,
There you
and you
go.
decide together. And I think that's really nice too, because it gives ownership to every single person in the class of what I'm willing to commit to and what I want to get. What are my learning goals, personally, for why I'm taking this class? And so,
and that goes back to the facilitator too, because it's not a instructor with a lesson plan. It's the facilitator checking in with all the participants, making sure that everybody is what their expectations are, that the group is going to meet them. And it's, so the facilitator does need to be a facilitator and not get upset when it's like, well, I really wanted to do it this way. That's not what this is about.
no, it's very student, it's very learner focused,
Learner
and it's about
focused.
the learner setting their own goals for what it is that they want to learn, and also then what they are able and willing to bring to the classroom. So
That does sound like the best way to learn.
yeah, it was a great experience. I really enjoyed
We're a little
it.
bit excited about it.
A little bit. I can imagine that, especially if you're trying to learn a foreign language. And I think I've started on a couple of those programs myself. And you're sitting there by yourself with a computer and you're
The microphone.
trying to say these words out loud, and you don't know if you're saying them right or what. So I could see how getting together with people would be a great way for, especially a language, but other things as well.
Right.
And then to make those community connections and friendships.
Yes.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's a great idea.
Well, it was neat. One of the things that we heard when we were going through our community engagement planning process as we met with people in the community and all of the communities that we serve, the 10 libraries we have outside in the county and at the mall at Spokane Valley too. We heard from people a lot that they want to know who their neighbors are,
Yeah.
that they want to make real human connections.
Yes.
And so that was one of the things that I had hoped would happen with this writing group, and it really did.
That's
and,
great.
And that was really neat to see, because you hear, and I think it's not just I think it's kind of like with the age we live in, that people do feel a little bit isolated.
Well,
and
we
they
have this
want-
great technology, we have these phones and the internet,
Sure.
and we don't even need to leave our houses
Right.
anymore. But we're the type of species that needs to talk to others. We need that
Yeah.
interaction, and
Yeah.
so what a great way to balance that.
And,
Yeah.
you're coming together because you all share a common interest, which is a great basis for making new friends.
Sure.
And
It's the best way to do it.
yeah, and it was delightful, and it was the group I had was, they were all very different. They came from different backgrounds and different viewpoints, and it was really neat to see that sometimes there'd be some hot button topics as we were discussing, and the group was able to, without me needing to do much, kind of settle it themselves. And I found it very encouraging and hopeful and inspiring to see how people from very different backgrounds can sit around a table and talk and converse and get a little heated and then and settle it out. And
civil conversation.
it was amazing,
Yeah.
and it was so much fun.
It does sound fun. Now, we mentioned the polls, and they're still open.
They are.
And where do we go?
So you can go to the website, and I think honestly, the last time I was looking for the polls, I just did a site search for learning circles.
Okay.
And there's a nice article that comes up that has the polls. We're hoping to offer learning circles this spring at our Moran Prairie. I'm double checking with Gwendolyn to make sure I have it right. Our Cheney and our Deer Park locations.
Great.
If voting on a web poll isn't your thing, we also will have a a way to vote in the library. Moran Prairie has a nice board set up already, and I think it's kind of a little, like, put a sticky note by the topics that you're interested in,
Sure,
so that we
sure.
can get that feedback from people that are in the library as well.
Okay, so the website is scld.org.
Yes.
And Stacey, probably you had the best idea. Just do a site search for Learning Circles, and
Yeah.
there'll be a blog article that comes up in the polls there, and so you can vote and
Exactly.
find a class. Or a subject that interests you.
Yeah.
How exciting that is. Or stop by Moran Prairie, too.
Or stop by
Yes.
Moran Prairie in person
Okay.
and vote in person.
Yep.
Yeah, good learning circles. Great idea. I love it that you're both out there and you're both looking for these new things to bring to the community and to the library and help do these things that our community is asking us for.
Yeah.
So that's great. And I'm excited about it. I might actually go and vote and
Oh,
sign
yay.
up for one
Yeah, you
myself.
should- that would be
Absolutely
I
great.
should, yes. I have a few languages I'd like to learn. I'd just like to make sure I was held accountable on some of them.
Well, I'm glad
Pressure
you
prompted.
mentioned language. One of the things that a couple of our staff that did the facilitator training, were interested in sign language. So, and that's something that we know there's a lot of interest in our community. So,
And I could see in person that being really helpful.
Yeah.
That's great.
So my guess is that before the end of the year, we will have done at least one
Yeah, I would think so.
ASL
There's a lot of interest. Yeah.
learning circle.
nice.
So,
All right. Well, thank you both for joining me
you.
today.
Thank
We're
you.
talking about learning circles. And if you want to know more about learning circles, scld.org, or stop by one of our libraries and ask. Staff's always happy to help.
Absolutely.
Again, thank you for joining me. Look forward to seeing you both on the program again
Yes.
sometime
Thank
soon.
you, Jane.
Thanks,
and
Jane.
we'll see you next time on Library Out Loud.
Thanks for watching. Library Out Loud is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksMedia.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Library Out Loud is sponsored by our friends at the Spokane County Library District and STCU. Ask Jane a question, recommend a guest, or hear this program again on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or SpokaneTalksMedia.com.